Kerala new 118 law. What is this law? Basically, Kerala has promulgated an ordinance where section 118A has been introduced in the Kerala Police Act 2011. So what this section 118A says? So now, yes, general dead or weak germs of that particular disease present in vaccine. Yeah. So, what does this provision says? It is saying that if the government finds any media platforms, including social media, producing, publishing, or propagating content that could threaten, insult, or harm an individual, that person would get 3 years in prisons and fine up to rupees 10,000. So basically, it also empowers police to suo moto interrupt and deal with an offensive communication and make arrest without a warrant. So police is now getting huge powers to arrest any person who is making any allegation that he is getting harmed by any content being published on media platform. तो बेसिकली अगर सोशल मीडिया पे या प्रिंट मीडिया पे या इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मीडिया पे कुछ भी इंफॉर्मेशन प्रोपेगेट की जा रही है, कुछ भी पब्लिश की जा रही है, कुछ भी प्रमोट की जा रही है, अगर किसी भी इंडिविजुअल को लगता है कि उसको हार्म होने वाला है, तो उसके खिलाफ पुलिस एक्शन ले सकती है, उसको 3 इयर्स के लिए जेल में डाल सकती है. सो बेसिकली defamation would come under this, that you are going, you get maligned with this kind of, let me clear this. Basically, defamation cases would be there. Any harsh criticism of government would be come under this provision, or any kind of objectionable comment for disturbing religious harmony, communal harmony, etc. would come under this sphere. So this is basically the criticism of the law. The justification given for this high-handed power to police to suo moto. Suo moto means by their own, even without complaint, police can take the action. That is basically the suo moto interpretation. And anybody can be put under the prison. That is why this law is being criticized. The freedom of speech and expression and dissent would be penalized. Dissent means you are not agreeing with the government of the day. So you are protesting with the government. So any protest you are doing can be stifled by putting you jail under this act. Similarly, anything you write, maybe about religion, maybe about caste, maybe about gender equality, etc., may get stifled because of this this order. And also it is violative of Supreme Court instruction. See, similar provision has been added before also by central government in section 66A of Information Technology Act 2000 and also section 118D of Kerala Police Act. Both provisions were talking about that if any content is being published on social media platform, that is malicious, that is causing any inconvenience, disturbance, etc. to anybody, that person may get penal punishment. So Supreme Court has, in this Shriya single case, has struck down the order, section 66A and 118D of Kerala Police Act. And this act is also being vulnerable to misuse by any individual and government. See, government would definitely going to put their opponents into the jail. Individual also can misuse it, like my dignity get any individual may develop thin skin and he may get offended by one pretext or another. And also it can be used to gag media houses. The media which is criticizing the government of the day, which is exposing the corruption, misadministration, maladministration of the government, may get gagged because of this law. And it also against the constitutional freedom that we are getting from it. And most important, example to other states to frame similar laws of their own. What does it mean? See, in India, whatever the bad precedent it is being followed by everyone. It is being followed by everyone. So this bad example may be followed by other states. UP may start framing its own law on this line. Maharashtra may start framing its own law on this line, etc. So all states would develop this kind of law and would put their opponents into the bars. So now this is the interview question. This is not PQ, it is IQ, basically the interview question. Why government of the day, whether it is left, right or center, are afraid of free speech? Because Kerala is ruled by left government, UP is ruled by right government or etc. So as an IAS officer, what would be your approach in handling harsh and blatant criticism? Okay. So now coming to the next topic of negative yield bonds. What is bond? Bond is basically a piece of paper, Okay. So our economy is money based. Everything we do, we require money. Whether you want to do business, you require money, or you want to do marriage, you require money. I'm not talking about the dowry. I'm talking about the expenses you incur, maybe on marriage halls, etc. Catering, marriage hall, etc. If you want to get dye also, you need money, because aapke kriya karam pe, on your last rites, money would be spent it out. So basically, for everything you need money. And if you need money, so basically for economic activity especially, you need money. Whether you want to establish an industry, whether you want to establish, construct infrastructure, etc., you need money. So whether it is company or government, what they do, how they collect the money, how they mobilize the money, they issue this piece of paper, that is bond. And on this piece of paper, they make a guarantee that they would repay the amount they are collecting from the people. So people like you and me who has done savings, maybe of 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 10 lakh, etc., they would give it to company who would establish, for example, for this example says Reliance. Reliance would issue its bond. It would collect money from the middle class who has done the savings out of its income. It would give it to Reliance, and Reliance use this money to establish its factories like oil refineries, Geo, etc. And in lieu of the money, it would give the bond, a piece of paper where it is guaranteeing that it would repay the amount. So now, yield. You may be hearing this word in newspapers quite often. What do you mean by yield? See, suppose Reliance borrow from you rupees 1 lakh, okay, and it has promised to give you 8% interest. Okay, suppose from Suresh it has borrowed 1 lakh. So now Ramesh, who is friend of Suresh, has come to Suresh and asked Suresh to give this 1 lakh rupees bond to him. 1 lakh ka bond mujhe de do. Suresh said, I would give you to this bond of Reliance to you, but for rupees 1,20,000. So Ramesh agreed. Ramesh pays 1,20,000 to Suresh and he got the bond of Reliance. Now 8% on 1 lakh is 8,000. So return for the Suresh was 8%. But what is the return for Ramesh is 8,000 by 1,20,000. This is basically the yield. The market price of the bond would be the denominator and the actual return you are getting is numerator. The return would be calculated from the principal amount. This 1 lakh rupees is the principal amount, basically the original amount, or you can say the face value amount. This is known as face value also. So principal amount, face value amount, original amount is 1 lakh. The market rate is 120,000. The interest would be charged or return would be given on the principal amount. So basically, numerator is the interest or return and denominator is the market price. You would get the yield. And yield gets changes with the change in the price of bond, that is depending on the demand and supply of bond. Now coming to the negative yield bonds. What is this negative yield bonds? Suppose Ramesh has purchased the bond of Reliance. Suppose HDFC Bank. Take the example of HDFC Bank. HDFC Bank has issued bonds. Suppose Suresh has bought it for 1 lakh. In this case, in this negative yield bond, what happens? Suresh pays to HDFC Bank for purchasing the bonds. HDFC Bank is not giving any interest, any return to Suresh. Suresh is now paying to HDFC Bank. In previous case, in positive yield bonds, HDFC Bank, suppose of bond is 1 lakh rupees. HDFC Bank would pay 8%. HDFC Bank would pay 8% interest rate. But in negative yield bonds, what happens? Suresh would give HDFC Bank 2,000 rupees, suppose 2% negative rate, at 2% negative rate, 2,000 rupees to HDFC for purchasing its bond. For purchasing its bond. समझ आई आपको? Let me give you this description in Hindi. HDFC बैंक ने 1 लाख रुपए का बॉन्ड सुरेश को इशू किया. सुरेश 1 लाख रुपया HDFC बैंक को देगा. सुरेश ना सिर्फ 1 लाख रुपए देगा बल्कि 2,000 रुपीस भी HDFC को देगा. दिस इज बेसिकली द नेगेटिव यील्ड बॉन्ड. HDFC बैंक जिसने पैसा उधार लिया है सुरेश से, वो उसको कोई रिटर्न नहीं दे रहा, बल्कि सुरेश उसके पैसा उधार देने पे पैसा रिटर्न दे रहा है. नेगेटिव यील्ड बॉन्ड. अब ये सिचुएशन क्यों आती है इकोनॉमी? व्हाई दिस सिचुएशन कम्स इन द इकोनॉमी? What are the reasons behind buying the negative yield bond? Basically, to create a diverse portfolio. You know that mutual fund, hedge funds, investment funds do a lot of investment in various securities. Sometimes they get profit and sometimes they get loss. So to recover or to do risk management, what they do, they invest in certain government securities. Certain government securities they invest in, like of European Union bonds. तो जो ये these European countries does not give any interest, rather they charge from the bond buyers. But these European bonds are quite safe. In case these mutual funds, investment firms get loss, they can pay back their investors from these European bonds. Also to use them as collateral, because these are highly safe bonds. There is absolute guarantee that the European Union would repay, European Central Bank would repay the amount it is borrowing. It would definitely repay. That is why it can be used as a tool of mortgage, etc. with any other bank. To take benefit from currency again, how does it work? Suppose, just take the example of Japanese currency yen. Now maybe suppose for the example sake 10 yen equal to $1. Japanese central bank issued the negative yield bond like of -1%. Now 10 yen equal to $1. Tomorrow 20 yen may be equal to $1. So those who has purchased at 10 yen equal to $1 would get 100% profit when the yen value get depreciate. That is why they would invest in Japanese yen at 1% loss. तो यहाँ पे 1% loss होगा, यहाँ पे 100% का profit होगा. So net effect is 99%. So to avoid domestic deflation risk, what does it mean? Suppose investors suspect that there would be deflation in the economy. Take the example. Suppose apples. Today's apple price suppose is rupees 100 equal to 1 kg. For 1 kg apple price is rupees 100. Tomorrow its price may get reduced. That is deflation would be there. That is decrease in the prices. So rupees 50 rupees would be the price of 1 kg apple. Okay. So now your money value is going to be increase. How? Suppose your income is rupees 1000. From 100 rupees you can purchase 10 kg apples. From 50 rupees you can earn 20 kg apples. So your money value get increased. So in this period of deflation, investors would like to invest in negative yield also, because their money value is basically is not going to be affected much. मान लो उन्होंने 100 रुपीज HDFC में इन्वेस्ट किए, अब उनके मान लो at negative yield at 2% deduction the value is 98, but at 100 rupees they were able to buy 1 kg apple. Now at 98 rupees they were able to purchase 1.49 kg apples. So they do not get any loss, rather they get profit of 0.49 kg apples by this negative yield bonds. Then to create safe haven assets, they want to maybe park their money in Switzerland, in Cayman Islands, etc., where they would get tax benefits. So that is why to park their black money in these money laundered countries like Cayman Islands, Switzerland, etc., they may bear the negative yield for it. And also, when they fear that there would be stock market crash, that prices of the shares would decline, so they want to just quickly sell their shares and want to invest in those bond markets which are safe. Basically, this investment is known as flight to safety trade. So what is the current news? China now offered for the first time negative yield bonds. These negative yield bonds, I've told you, generally were issued by Europe, because European bonds are quite safe. Safety is the cardinal principle of it. Safety means if you buy these bonds, you would surely get the money back. Why there is reason for high demand of Chinese bonds? First, China is giving 0.15% yield, whereas Europe is giving minus 0.5 to 0.75% yield. Basically, investors would get better return from it. Second, China's positive gross domestic product. European countries, because of corona, they would face decline in GDP, but China is going to get positive growth of 4.9%. So basically, their income would increase by 4.9%. So basically, the bond value would increase over the time. Europe, United States would get second wave of COVID-19 cases, but China has controlled the COVID-19 cases. So China offers you stable economy, polity, etc. in future. Then also huge money, liquidity means cash. Huge money has been injected by the global central banks after the pandemic. You know, because of pandemic there was lockdown in most of the countries. Because of that, factories get shut down, there was unemployment, people lose income. So that is why, to put money in the people's hand, central banks has given money in one pretext or another. That is why this surplus money would get invested in Chinese bonds, because they are getting good return. Okay. And also they are fearing decline in growth. That is why they want to sell their shares of companies like Reliance, Tata, etc. See, when we talk about this decline in GDP, it means decline in income. Whose income would decrease? Of industries. So industries' income would decrease, so it means less dividend would be given. Less dividend would be given means decline in shares prices. So decline in share prices means lower return to investors. So they want to sell their shares and want to invest in these bonds. So this is the second, I think third prelims question of the day. Kindly answer it. Then we will move forward towards next topic. Let me rub for you. Yes, let me see your comments also. Yes, right to speech is not absolute. Yes, exactly, Jannat. Let me see you on Instagram also. So, yeah, so I think no study related comments. So, okay, we would see it later. We would see it later. So let's come to the, I think you may have answered also. Yes, hello Manish. So answer it, let me tell you the answer also. Answer is, yeah, B. Answer is B. So next, the desalination plant. Maharashtra has announced that there would be desalination plant in Mumbai. Where, what is this desalination plant? It basically would remove the salt ingredients of the seawater and it would make it fresh water, and it would have the capacity of 20 million liters of the water to process daily, and it would address the water shortage of Mumbai in months of May and June. And Maharashtra is the fourth state to experiment with desalination plant. First one was Tamil Nadu, then Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh also was experimented with these desalination plants. So now comes to the desalination plant. It basically turns salt water into fresh water, drinkable water, potable water. So it removes the salts from the water to meet the human requirement of consumption of water. Technology uses reverse osmosis. You may have read in your NCERT textbooks during your schools. I think I do not need to explain it further. Very simple concept is there. External pressure is applied to push solvents from an area of high solute concentration to an area of low solute concentration through semi-permeable membrane. This microscopic pores in the membranes allows water molecules throughout leave salt, and most impurities leave behind. Basically, suppose this is salt water, external pressure would be there. Here, there would be some membrane. It would act as a filter. Salt would collected here, and on the next jar, you would get the fresh water. This is basically the very simple process of reverse osmosis. You can see this in diagram also. Here, seawater intake is there, treatment is there, then RO system, then here post-treatment, then you get the fresh water. Reverse osmosis is the RO system. This also works in your homes also. What is the advantage? Basically, we would, you know that in your textbooks you have read that 98% of the water is locked in oceans, and these are not fit for the human consumption. Only around less than 1% water is available for human consumption. If we are able to commercialize this technology, then what we would get a plenty of water, plenty of water. The water crisis could be averted, could be avoided. The dystopian picture that we often being showed that there would be water crisis in the world would be fighting over water. Just we have discussed this potential conflict between India and China over water. That could be easily averted through this plant, So basically we would get endless amount of water for drinking, for agriculture, for urban area consumption, for our other water needs like of bathing, etc. So what are the problems or challenges in this plant? First, very costly to build and operate. See, this huge setup has to be created. Second, require huge amount of energy. So it would release greenhouse gas emissions through this plant. Third, see, before letting you about the third challenge, see, the reverse osmosis release fresh water to the air, but it also release waste, and this waste is sent back to oceans, and this waste is known as brine, B-R-I-N-E. What is this brine? I would let you know in the next slide. So basically, this salt remained is known as brine, and it is being released again in the ocean. So it would change the salinity level. Salinity level is the amount of salt in the given amount of water in the ocean. So this high salinity would lower the amount of oxygen in the water, because salt would now be greater and water molecules would be lesser. Let me adjust this. Okay. And it would be deadly for the marine animals. The marine organism would get killed because of this change in salinity. And desalination process also use numerous chemicals like chlorine, and also produce carbon dioxide, hydrochloric acid, which are harmful if they are in high concentration. Now the question is how we can use this desalination plant, how we can convert this challenge into opportunity. Remember, every challenge is opportunity for you. And how this can be converted into opportunity? Brine can be mined. It can be mined by getting some precious element like uranium, strontium, sodium, magnesium, etc. This salt waste may have uranium, strontium, sodium and magnesium that can be extracted from brine. Second, it can be used for aquaculture. Basically, it can be used for producing fishes, for cultivating fishes. And it has been found that if brine is being used, fish biomass get increased by 300%. So basically, by three times we would get more fish production. And also it can be used to irrigate shrubs, crops and spirulina, etc. And also, now coming to this use of desalination plants. It has been mostly in Middle East, Israel, Saudi Arabia, UAE, etc. They are being pioneer in adopting these kind of desalination plants. Why? Because necessity is the mother of invention. These countries are water deficit of fresh water. They are deficit of fresh water. That is why they are using their sea water. And also United States, Australia is also using. In India, it is being used in Tamil Nadu, and Gujarat and other states also have some plants. So now we need to make this technology affordable. Government can provide subsidies for it, and also innovative financial mechanism could be there, like drinking water bonds we can issue, and also technology, the technology from where huge brine disposal is there, huge use of carbon dioxide, hydrochloric acid is there, that need to be refined so that less harmful products are used in the process, and also less waste is being generated. So now this is the most important topic of the day, corporate houses in Indian banking. If you have attended my previous lecture, I have told you about this P.K. Mohanty, an internal working group, an internal committee of RBI under the chairmanship of P.K. Mohanty has been established, and it has recommended many recommendations. One of the recommendations was that corporate houses like Tata's, Ambani's, etc. should be allowed to establish their banks. And this suggestion has invited huge criticism from the economists, from the intellectuals. Why the intellectuals, economists, etc. are being on the same side in criticizing this idea? So let me, before going into detail, let me give you the background of these corporate houses in Indian banking. It is not a new idea. In 2013, RBI has issued some guidelines where corporates were allowed to establish their banks. But corporates have to fulfill many criteria, like 50% of their board members would be independent. Basically, not the shareholders appointed members, rather chosen from the outside experts. Second, they have to give lending to priority sectors like agriculturist, micro, small and medium industries, women, scheduled tribes, scheduled castes, etc. So these kind of guidelines ensure that the corporates were not able to participate. What do I mean by it? Corporates give very lukewarm response to RBI guidelines. Corporates were not ready to enter the banking sector by these guidelines because these guidelines are not profitable. They are not going to give them high profits. So that is why no corporate enter in the banking sector. But in 2014, RBI reversed its stand. It has prohibited the entry of corporates in banking. In 2014, who was the chairman? Raghunath Rajan. So, he was the governor of RBI, Raghunath Rajan. And he has prohibited the entry of corporate houses into banking. Because he has found that there could be systemic risks to the economy if any corporate house get failed. How systemic risk we would discuss in the later part of the topic. But his now internal group has recommended that we should open the banking sector to corporate houses. Why? First, it has said that NBFC are already working in the financial spheres. What are these NBFC? NBFC simply means those companies which are not banks but which are being engaged in dealing with money. Like money comes in, money comes out. If you do not get the idea, let me explain you with the example. Take the example of Bajaj Finserv. This Bajaj company is giving you finance for purchasing scooter, motorcycles, TV, fridge, etc. Similarly, take the example of Muthoot Finance. In lieu of gold, it provides you money. So this is basically the NBFCs. These NBFCs are already being managed by corporates. So why don't banks? So this is the basic one argument of internal working group. And it also recommended that those NBFCs who have more than 50,000 crore loans, they can be converted into banks if they have successful track record of 10 years. Second, if the corporate owned NBFC could be well regulated, why not banks could be well regulated by RBI which are owned by corporates? Third, it has recommended some caution also that before corporate houses are allowed, some legal framework, basically the Banking Regulation Act 1949 should be amended. The RBI Act 1934 should be amended. The RBI should be given more supervisory power, more effective powers to deal with any kind of mismanagement by corporate houses. So that is why a piece of caution is also being given by the internal working group. So what are the pros of this move? First, India is a money deficit country, specifically lending deficit country. See, we need huge money for our different economic activities. Be it, if you want to establish a business, you need money. If you want to purchase a bike, a Apple phone, maybe a laptop, etc., you need money. But to get lending is not easy, specifically for the poor and marginalized sections of the country. You can imagine anyone who is poor and whom you know it. अगर आप किसी भी गरीब व्यक्ति को जानते हो, if you know any poor person, you may find that he find huge difficulty in getting loan, specifically from the banks. But from the money lenders, from the landlords, from the relatives, he or she may get easy money. So that is why to increase the lending in the economy, corporate house should be welcomed. Second, we need huge money for industrialization. We need huge money for infrastructure development. For that also we need large corporate banks who have large corporate houses who have huge money in their hands, they can establish banks and they can provide money for it. Then also we would get expertise from them. They can run banks also quite efficiently. Take the example of HDFC, take the example of Kotak Mahindra Bank, take the example of ICICI Bank, Axis Bank. They are being run by the private sector and they are being run very efficiently as compared to public sector banks. They are giving customer service which are quite unparalleled to the public sector banks. So that expertise also we would get. And also in many countries, corporate houses are allowed in banking. Take, if you may have known this name, JP Morgan Chase. JP Morgan Chase. That is also a corporate bank in America. There is Alex and Brown Bank. There is also a Alex and Brown Bank in West. So why, if the corporate houses are being allowed in other countries, why not India? So now come to the cons of this move. That is basically the greater than the pros. Cons are greater than pros. See, first problem is interconnected lending. What does it mean? Suppose if Reliance Bank is established, take the example of Reliance Bank. It would give lending to Reliance companies, Jio, oil refinery of Reliance, etc. It would give loan to the Reliance companies. It would give the loan to customers of Jio, customers of Reliance Oil, etc. and suppliers of Reliance. So basically, there would be concentration of economic power. They would not find any difficulty in accessing loan. And they would utilize the hard-earned money of the middle class, which they give to the banks as deposit on the basis of trust to finance their business activities. So in case any company of Reliance get failed, then the bank would also get failed because it would not able to recover its loan. It would also not take any stringent action to recover its loan. So the Reliance Bank would get losses and it would not able to repay the depositors. Then the other non-banking entities of the group banks would get high exposure. Basically, it would be affected by the loss and profit of the non-bank entities of the group. And also there is fear of privatization of the public sector banks in the long run. See, you know that majority of the public sector banks are in losses. They are in losses. So, and government to reduce the losses, what has done is, it has done merger and consolidation of public sector banks. Earlier there was around 27 to 29 banks. Now there are only 12 banks. So there are only 12 banks now. So now these public sector banks, what is the issue is, there is no governance reform. The governance reform has not been done so far. So there is possibility that in future also these public sector banks would face high losses. In that case, in that scenario, government would find short of money. It would not have money to bail out the banks, to bear the losses of the banks. So what it would do, it would finally sold these public sector banks to corporate owned banks. Corporate owned banks. Just like Lakshmi Vilas Bank has been merged with DBS Bank. Similarly, the public sector banks would be merged with the corporate houses owned banks. That is also the fear in the long run. Then there is also a moral hazard. Moral hazard. Suppose Reliance Bank get failed. It is not able to pay its depositor. Then what is the situation in the economy? No country can allow its bank to get failed. If it get failed, the whole economy would get crumbled. So RBI, government has to step in to save the Reliance Bank. Basically, a private bank is being bailed out by the government. So here there is question of moral hazard. Private losses are being bear out by the taxpayer money. are being bailed out from the taxpayer money. The profits that these banks, this company would be, if they generate, they would be shared by the shareholders or the investors, but the losses would be bared by the taxpayers. That is also a question of moral hazard. Also, committee is saying that interconnected lending could be supervised. RBI can take action if this kind of interconnected lending, etc. take place. Then you know that monitoring of corporate house transaction is very difficult, because they would try to establish shell companies, fake companies, benami companies, etc. From these companies, they would ensure that they would get lending from the corporate owned banks. Second, there may be exchange relationship. How? Suppose there is Tata Bank and there is Reliance Bank. Okay, Tata and Reliance would do a deal. Tata cannot give lending to, suppose, Tata Consultancy Service, Tata Automobiles, etc. What Tata would do? Tata would give loan to Jio, and Reliance would give loan to TCS or Tata Automobiles, Motors, etc. So there could be exchange relationship between different corporate houses. Then also there is possibility of crony capitalism. Basically, the politician and corporates would develop some nexus, and any stringent action could not be taken against these corporate banks. Then also it would also erode the RBI credibility. How? See, RBI would face multiple pressure from politicians, etc., not to act against these corporate banks if they do any kind of mismanagement. Then RBI would now be in constant pull and push, constant tug of war, whether to act or not to act. So that is why if it is not able to act properly, its credibility, its trust, its reliability would get eroded. And also RBI can take action only after the incident has happened. It does not have sufficient power to prevent the mismanagement. It can only cure the mismanagement. After some corruption, after some mishappening has been done, it can take action only then. You can take the example of Nirav Modi and Vijay Mallya also. There could be multiple Vijay Mallya and Nirav Modi in the economy where they duped these corporate banks, and they take away the money of the depositors with them and fly away to the other countries. You can take the example of Yes Bank. How Yes Bank has been systematically being misused by some crony capitalists, and they have taken the money of depositors and they have never returned it back. So this could be happened. So basically the crux or the final wording of this discussion is time is not ripe for the corporate banks. Time is not ripe for the corporate banks. Time has not yet come for the corporate banks. We need to wait further before allowing the corporate banks to step in. Because first we need to build regulatory capacity of the RBI. We need to build strong institutional mechanism to protect the depositor. For example, this deposit insurance need to be raised further. Deposit insurance and credit guarantee corporation powers need to be enlarged. We need to bring in this financial regulation and development insurance bill, so to protect depositors. So these kind of institutional mechanism we need to take first, then we need to move forward towards this idea. So this is mains answer writing question. India is credit deficit country. Critically examine the entry of large corporate banks as quick fix addressal of such challenge to Indian economy. So yes, let me see your comments. Yes, कितने मिनट की होगी वीडियो? Okay. So yeah, only one topic left, Chang E5 mission. I think we would do in the next class. And thank you for your cooperation. Today was the first class related to today was the first class where we have used the digital board. So that, and meanwhile we have faced multiple technical challenges, and we have faced multiple issues also, but we promise from the next class it would not happen. All the technical issues would be resolved, and I sincerely thank you for your warm cooperation you have given to the class. Okay, so I hope you appreciate the new system we have adopted for the class, and you will show the same love that you are giving to our previous classes. This is basically the step forward. This is a step forward for further improvement in the class, so that you get the best quality online classes from our part. Okay, so thank you very much to all of you. That's all for today. We would continue from the Chang mission in the next class that we are going to conduct on Wednesday. Okay, so we are going to meet every Wednesday and Sunday to discuss the previous day current affairs. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you very much to all of you. A very happy learning and all the best for your studies. Thank you very much.